Okay, so we spent some time talking about the inbound methodology and inbound marketing. We looked at some of the differences between examples of companies trying to do outbound marketing versus companies trying to do inbound marketing. And of course, we also went through one exercise where you try to get into the shoes of the buyer to really understand what it is that the buyer needs. Now, since you've already been through that exercise, there are a couple of things that I would like to point out, right? Always think about whenever you're looking to find the solution for a particular problem, whenever you're trying to find a resource that can serve to help educate you, to give you the right information, to make a right decision. What are the key factors that you're looking for? These are some of the key factors that you'll always be looking for when you're trying to find the right resource to address your particular problem. The first question you would be trying to answer is the information that you're getting from the resource, is it relevant to your problem? For example, I could definitely go onto Google and try to search for, let's say if I'm looking for information on the best engineering schools or engineering colleges in a particular country, I can definitely go on to Google and search. However, I would be better served if I find a dedicated portal which is full of discussion threads that just focus on this particular subject, right? Instead of trying to find that information in an ocean of data and in an ocean of links, I would rather find that information somewhere where most of the information is going to be relevant for me. The second question that I'm always going to ask myself is the information easy to find and consume? Now, let's say there is a website which talks about the best engineering colleges in the country, which has a lot of discussion forums, a lot of student reviews, and a lot of Q and A's with experts. However, if just to find the right list of engineering colleges that offer a particular specialization that I'm interested in, now if it takes me 20 different clicks through that website just to find that list of engineering colleges, I'm most possibly going to lose interest and I'll most possibly end up looking for that information elsewhere. Hence the second question essentially is, sorry, and hence the question is, am I really able to find that information in the most easiest way? Am I able to consume it in the most easiest way? The second consideration which I'll have when I'm looking for information, when I'm looking for a particular resource of information, is that is this information just a one time consumption, or will this resource be able to serve me throughout my entire buying process? For example, if we are talking about engineering schools, will this particular resource or will this particular website give me information not just about finding out which colleges to apply to, but also be able to help me with the best practices in terms of how to apply to these colleges, as well as give me best practices on what are some of the things I need to be prepared for when I'm moving from my school life to my engineering school or engineering college life, right? So I'm not just looking for a one time solution, I'm not just looking for a solution which addresses just one part of my journey, but I would rather have something which gives me that support throughout the end of my journey. And then I would also look for something where I'm able to share that feedback even after I have made the decision, right? After I've made the decision, after I've picked up a particular engineering college, after I've applied through the engineering college, got into it, started experiencing it, am I able to relay that feedback back to you? Or do I just see that resource center as a static place which is just putting information out towards me but is not receptive to the information that I can share with this, right? Now, what do all of these things essentially mean for marketing, right? There are a couple of takeaways which come out extremely clearly. So the first thing is that you really need to understand the specific pain point which the buyer is focused on, right? We talked about very briefly about the buyer's journey, right? That depending on the product, the buyer spends a significant amount of time right from when they first figure out that they have a problem till the point that they actually buy a solution that addresses that problem. And this entire thing is called the buyer's journey, right? And you really need to understand where the buyer is in their journey. You need to understand the specific pain point the specific questions that they are seeking answers to and try to answer those questions. The second thing that you need to do is you want to stand out. There are so many sources of information available, and unless you're able to stand out, unless you're able to create a differentiated position for yourself, chances are you'll just get lost in the sea of competition that is already there. The third thing, and this is something we picked up from another example when we were talking about Swiggy, is that you want to make sure that you're staying in touch throughout the process. You don't want to treat your relationship with a buyer as a single transaction. Instead, you want to treat it as an ongoing interaction, as an ongoing relationship which you need to keep adding value to over the entire process so that the buyer remains engaged with you, not just for their initial purchase, not just for the initial transaction, but even after that. And a buyer that is well engaged with you has a very high likelihood of becoming an advocate of your brand, of becoming an evangelist of your brand, and spreading that awareness about your brand very simply through word of mouth. But wait, we still haven't answered that basic question which we started this entire conversation with. What really is inbound marketing? Sure, we did walk through some examples where we talked to you about what is not inbound marketing, the examples of companies which are trying to do marketing, but their efforts end up becoming extremely outbound and almost end up causing an irritation for the buyer or continue interrupting the buyer. But we haven't really answered what inbound marketing is. So why don't we just go back through some of the ideas that we have already discussed, right? We talked about becoming a trusted source of information for your buyers, a trusted source of information which the buyer can rely on, which the buyer seems as genuine, where the buyer does not feel that there is a very strong bias or a very strong motive for you to be falsifying information, and where the buyer is able to trust your advice and take it on face value. So becoming a trusted source of information, that definitely is inbound marketing. Second, we talked about continuously engaging your buyers, right? The example which we gave around Swiggy was focused on customer service, but it just goes to show that your relationship with the customer or your relationship with the buyer does not end after the initial transaction. You need to make sure that your buyers continue to have an extremely delightful experience even after that initial purchase. And hence, inbound marketing requires you to be continuously engaging with your buyers and selling more than just a product. Yes, if you're just focused on talking about your product or selling your product or marketing your product towards the buyers can lose interest in you. The market, the audience can lose interest in you. So, what do you do, or how do you draw or engage your audience by talking about something that is not really the product? In this particular example that we are looking at, Swiggy or the company which we are talking about here does not really talk about the product but talks about the user themselves. Think about the experience that they're creating by being able to engage the user with information about them. We have seen some similar examples from companies such as Uber, where they, at the end of 2018 or 2017, they produced a video, a custom video that you could download, which read your ear with Uber, and that was a personalized video. That's another good example. But again, those companies, because they're focused on that inbound approach to marketing, are trying to sell more than just the product. And this is where we need to connect dots to essentially what you can call as the three stages of marketing, right? Three stages of being able to get a lead and convert that lead, or being able to attract the audience. That is where marketing essentially starts. You start by really attracting the audience. Once you have attracted the audience, you want to make sure that you're engaging them all the time till they actually make that purchase decision. And once you have engaged them, that is when you want to make sure that you're delighting them so that they keep coming back to you, right? This is the virtuous circle of marketing. You want to start by attracting, using the right means, making sure that your audience discovers you in the right way. Once you have attracted their attention, you want to make sure that you're engaging them with the right pieces of information at the right time to answer the right set of questions that they have. And even once they've made the purchase, how do you make sure that you're constantly giving them a delightful experience? Now, if these are the three stages of marketing, what do you need to do as a marketeer so that you're following the inbound marketing principles? Well, you need to understand the specific pain points that your buyer is focused on is nothing but really understanding what we call as the buyer personas. You need to stand out because there's too much competition. This is just about getting discovered, making sure that your buyers are able to find out that you exist. And finally, you want to stay in touch throughout the process. This is nothing but nurturing the relationship that you have with your existing customers. Now, with this context, if we simply compare interruption marketing, which is the traditional way of doing things, this is what it looks like. Interruption marketing, essentially, or outbound marketing, is just about pushing information out there. We've discussed this in one of the previous videos where we talk about how broadcast marketing is entirely focused on pushing information in front of the prospect audience in the form of press releases, media announcements. You keep getting all of these pop ups on websites. You start seeing all of these contextual ads. Let's say you're browsing Amazon, you went to a particular page, and because you went to a particular page, now that ad almost seems to follow you everywhere you go on to the internet. Outbound sales calls. Outbound sales calls are nothing but you get these phone calls asking you to buy a credit card or get an upgrade on an existing bank card that you have. All of those are outbound sales calls. The people calling you have very high chance that they have done zero research about what it is that you really want. And this is essentially the nature of inbound marketing. And the biggest problem with this is that at the end of the day, your bet in terms of being able to get the customer's attention is by interrupting them, which does not seem like a very solid game plan to be going in with. And this is proven. More than 94% of consumers have discontinued communications with the company because of the messages that they received, because of the emails that they received, and which they found to be irrelevant. 74% consumers are likely to switch brands if they find the purchasing process too difficult. Think about it. Think about it if you're on an e commerce site or if you're ordering food online. Would you rather order over a website which has a complex ordering process but is cheaper to order from? Or would you, over a long run of time, just prefer the convenience of ordering from a website which is extremely easy to order from? So you definitely pick something which is easier to do, where the purchasing process itself is made easy. 51% of customers will never do business with a company again after one negative experience. Yes, we talked about outbound marketing, we talked about interruption marketing, and while some of these means of marketing, including email, are extremely inexpensive, but the mistakes that result when you're going on to that interruption marketing mode can be very expensive, and they can pretty much cause you your own business. And 93% of consumers said that they're more likely to be repeat customers at companies with remarkable service. Think about it. It's not the real product that is driving the loyalty in a lot of the cases. It's not the real value that someone is getting from the physical goods that they're purchasing, but it is the service which is driving that loyalty. It is the service which is driving that repeat customer. And one other reason why it is high time for everyone to switch to inbound marketing is because today, in today's world, the customer is really the king. Today's buyer is much more empowered and has a lot more information about your product, about the industry, and the competition. Just think about it. 15 years back, someone buying a computer had a lot less information about computers in general, let alone about the features and the specifications and all the different models that are available in the market. Today's buyer is already connected to so much information. Just think about it. Even before you talk to a salesperson for the first time, you've already read through almost all the information that is present on the company's website. So much so that you have almost read so much information, you could pretty much become the salesperson on your own instead of even trying to talk to a salesperson, because the salesperson might not really have any additional information which is not already there on the company's website. Even before you go walk into a showroom, you already have so much knowledge that you have already gathered without even interacting with an actual person. You already know about the competition, you know about the industry, you know about the product, you know about what is the price that you're expecting. You are empowered with all of that information. And still, and despite all of this, if you're focused on interruption marketing, that means that you're continuing to view your customers merely as people who are just waiting to be interrupted by your promotions, by your advertisements. Just think about it this way. This is quite funny, but just think about it. Have you ever woken up and said to yourself, hey, I want to see an ad today, right? You've most likely never done that sort of a thing. However, still every single day, marketeers wake up and they say to themselves, hey, I think I'll make an ad today. Why is that huge disconnect between what the audience wants and what the marketers are doing day in and day out? And hence, you need the principles of inbound marketing to be deployed. What is inbound marketing? Inbound marketing replaces throwaway press releases with public relations, right? Really trying to figure out what are the right messages to disseminate through media outlets and to your potential followers. It replaces your interstitial pages, which is just random promotion pages on your website, with blogging, where you're trying to answer the questions or trying to give answers to the audience about the questions that matter to them the most throughout their various throughout their various stages in their buying process. You're replacing your typical trade show booth where you just set up a booth and you just put up your company's hoarding and you're displaying your products here with public speaking. You'd rather get some of the key people at your company to do a speaking engagement at an event, to talk about their vision, to share their beliefs, to share their ideas and connect with the audience, versus just setting up a booth and just hoping that someone will stop by your booth just because you're present at that conference. And even social media advertising, most interruption marketing or outbound marketing focuses on just using paid social media advertising, versus inbound marketing really believes in building that strong follower base, building that strong follower base of people who genuinely like your content and will genuinely share that content with others in the target audience. So essentially, your outbound marketing is nothing but interruption. Your inbound marketing is completely focused on attraction, making sure that you're attracting your users, and helping them discover you in the right place at the right time. Now we move on to an even more important question. Now that we have talked about inbound marketing, how do you do inbound marketing? Well, the answer is really that simple. To do inbound marketing, you must become inbound. I know this possibly sounds like some Buddhist saying, but believe me, this is essentially what you need to do. Inbound is a way of thinking. Inbound is about thinking the situation which the other person is in. Inbound is about being able to empathize and being able to put yourself in the other person's shoes. Inbound is about being able to assess the complete context of the situation which you're in before taking a decision. And to do inbound marketing, you need to read the mind of the customer. You need to let the customer come to you, let the customer discover you. And once they come to you, you need to make sure that you're giving them a great experience. And as long as you do all of those things, you can consider yourself an inbound marketer and you'll start seeing the results. I know some of you might still be confused, so stick along. We will dive into more details in the upcoming videos, and I'll see you on the other side.